Well, hello everybody, welcome along to this video. Mr. Johnson teaches unseen poetry. So this will be an element of your GCSE literature. You will actually be faced with two unseen poems. At the end of the exam you have to compare them, but for this video I'm particularly focusing on just how you would approach an unseen poem. There are lots of skills that you can bring to any poem and be prepared for, so it doesn't necessarily mean you have no chance with an unseen poem because you've not seen it before. In many ways, lots of students do better at it because actually through studying poetry in your GCSE, the anthology poems, you are more prepared than you might realise. But here comes some top tips for you. Be ready to write down and be actively revising when you watch this video, and join in. By the end of it, I'm going to be trying to model a paragraph for you as well, and I'd like you to write that one down with me. So let's get started with the video. Right, first things first then, it says step one there is going to be reading the poem, highlighting anything that leaps out at you. So I've chosen a poem on the right there. Before we even look at that, let's look at the question which is in the bottom left of the screen there. In Don't Quit, how does the poet present ideas about strength and determination? So with your highlighter in hand, if you could highlight that question, you'd want to be highlighting the words strength and determination. That is what we're going to be looking out for when we read this poem. How does it show the ideas of strength? How does it show where somebody's being determined? But also the question word, the trigger word there is how. How does the poet present those ideas? So we, of course, are looking out for the methods that that poet is used. Now, I've chosen this poem. At the time of recording, this is in the middle of the coronavirus. And this poem has come through. The BBC have put this on TV. I will try and post a link to their video reading of it as well, which is Idris Elba. But beyond that, you want to pause this video now and actually read it to yourself. And ideally, if you can print off a copy or have written this out so you've got it there in front of you, even better. Because what I would like you to do is, as you're reading it, highlight it. Actively choose the things which leap out at you. So I'm just going to let you pause this video to read it to yourself and ideally highlight it. And then when we come back, I'll show you what I chose. And I'm presuming that's you back with me. So here's what I found that leapt out for me. This doesn't mean that what you have chosen is wrong, or if you've missed something that's wrong either. For every person there's going to be different things which leap out, but hopefully we've got some similar ideas. And those are the ones which I chose for various different reasons. What would be really good then also is to label some of those methods, but we'll come on to that in a second. So there are some of the things. There's plenty to be going on there with. It's a 24-mark question. You're going to have about 25 to 30 minutes ideally to answer this question. So you're not going to be able to have to write about all of those. Really, we're probably looking for three key things in that poem. Probably something towards the beginning of the poem, maybe something in the middle, and then finally something from the end. Step one then done, we've done the highlighting. Step two, look at the title and the connotations of those titles. And as I said there, can you work out the message of the poem? Titles really matter when it comes to poetry. The poets will write their poem and then finally they'll give it a title. Now this one, Don't Quit, is very simple, but hopefully you can see how the message of the poem here is going to be doing with, the question was asking you about strength and determination, and the title is Don't Quit. So think about it, it's like a positive message. The word quit has very negative associations, but they are coupled with that word don't quit, which is quite informal because it's got the not do not quit, but don't quit. Sounds like an instruction to us. So we've almost got the imperative going on there, the command, don't quit. So that's something to think about instantly. You could analyse the title of that poem if you're stuck with what else to say, but that's your step two done. So step one, the highlighting. Step two, connotations. Then we move into step three. Three choices I mentioned earlier, so choosing three things and the methods, and label these. Now, if you're following along as you should be, you could pause this video now and try and spot those. I'm going to give you a few seconds to do that and then I'll continue. And then what I would point out to you is I think there's a lot of contrasting language going on here, where we've got there's success is failure turned inside out. We've got things like the first bit of the poem is all quite negative, but it says don't quit. So we've almost got negative imagery coupled with a positive message. So even though this thing is bad, make sure you actually focus on the positive, don't quit. There's also a simile coupled in there somewhere. I think there is anyway. I might have lost that simile. I might even be thinking about, in fact, about 2/3 of the way down, the bit I was looking at is the idea, the imagery you've got there of the clouds and the silver tint of the clouds. So almost you could talk about that as a metaphor going on there as well. So for me, for methods, I'd probably focus on the imperatives, that we're being given commands. That it feels like it's almost direct address because it's got when you're hardest hit. So it feels like we are being involved in this poem. And also the imagery that I just mentioned there. For me, those would be my three things. I could also talk about the title, making it a fourth thing if I had time and if I ran out of things to say. So there you go, in my head quickly. This is my planning I'm doing here, which would take just a couple minutes in the exam. But I've written those methods around my poem as well. So I've now got my plan. I've highlighted what I'm going to write about. I've written down the methods. All that's left really for me to do is actually stitch all of that together and construct my answer. So again, read that question before you get started. Have it in your head. In Don't Quit, how does the poet present ideas about strength and determination? Look at that poem. Where can you see strength coming through and where can you see determination? It could be both at once. It could just be one or the other. Now finally, what I'm going to try and do here with the time I've got left is write a model answer for you and with you. What I want you to do as I'm doing this is actually copy this down as well and listen to my thought process. I'm talking you through what I'm thinking in my head as I try and construct my answer. And then what the task will be for you to do is then write the next paragraph, and ideally even the next paragraph after that. But let's get started with this one then. So just going to get rid of that, and then you can see here my screen. So my model answer. What I want to do is start by directly answering this question. So the question was about strength and determination. So I'm going to use the poet's surname, which is going to be Whittier. Whittier tries to demonstrate to us, the reader, how important it is to keep on going when times are tough. I think it's a different way. I could have used the word strength and determination there, but instead I'm going to be talking about that. So keep on going when times are tough and show, and this is where I'm going to use those keywords from the question, show the qualities of strength and determination. Now if you need to, obviously you can pause this video as well if I'm going too quickly for you and typing too quickly for you. That is almost my P of my point completed, but the question says how does the poet present? So at this moment I am then going to choose one of the methods that the poet is using. Now I'm going to save one of the more straightforward ones I think for you to do at home. So instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose what I said earlier about those different ideas, how we've got positives and negatives all mixed up. So it almost goes negative idea followed by positive idea. I'm going to go straight to the end and actually look at those final two lines about the fight, this idea of a fight, and contrasting that with the idea of not quitting. So something hard but not letting that thing get on top of you. We've also got the words there, hardest hit. And like the idea of being hit is a very negative thing as well, coupled with fight. So already I've got the words I'm going to try and analyse in a minute. Before all of that, I just need to decide what that method is. So I could just say quite simply that the writer has used contrasting or different ideas, as in like negative and positive ideas. I could say that. I'm going to try and upgrade that a little bit and try and make it sound a little bit more a bit more clever, if you like. So what I'm going to talk about, the word is juxtaposition. We've got juxtaposing ideas going on there of hard language mixed with positive language. So going back to my answer then, the writer, I could say shows this. I've used the word demonstrates already, so the writer conveys is a nice word. The writer conveys this through their juxtaposition of positive and negative. In fact, I'm going to switch those around because it's negative. It always goes negative then positive. Of negative and positive. And I'm going to call them messages or lines actually, because they're lines in a poem. So there we go, lines. Next up, trying to move through this quickly, I need to drop in my evidence. I could quote all of those two lines, but as I've always taught my classes, the best thing you can try and do is drop in the words you want to use only. So I'm going to try and just pick out keywords as I type and drop them into my sentence. The writer talks about, if I'm going to quote that whole bit, sticking to the fight. And end my quote there. Sticking to the fight when you are, and I'm going to just quote the word hit because I'm going to analyse that one. And about making sure you don't quit. Making sure you, and I'm going to quote those final 3 words. Must not quit. Doesn't matter too much how you get your evidence in there. You are given marks for using evidence, and you're given more marks for using accurate evidence. So there's my accurate evidence. I've chosen key bits there. Square brackets, Google it if you're not sure why I've used square brackets there and what that's all about. And now I come on to the really important parts here. So far I've got my idea, I've got about what the poem is doing, I've got the method, and I've got the evidence. Now comes the analysis. Now I'm running out of time on my video here, so I'm going to try and do this as quickly as I can. I'm going to pick out key words here. If I can say what type of word they are, brilliant, like verb or adjective. If you don't know, don't worry. And then I'm going to try and explore the effect of those words. And here, because I've said there's 2 opposite ideas, I want to try and analyse 2 different words. So like a negative word coupled with a positive word. I'm going to try and use the word connotations here. So what do we associate with these words? So I'm going to focus on fight and quit because I've got the time. If I had more time, I would be analysing the word hit as well. So by using the, now again, I could put verb here. Or in this case, fight is a noun, but I'm going to go with word because you're given just as much credit in the exam for using word as you are now noun. By using the word, quote it again, fight, the writer is creating a negative connotation as fights are often hard, brutal, and painful. It's almost word association is what you're doing here, really. You're just showing that you understand what that word triggers and what that word creates. The fights are often hard, brutal, and painful. However, and this is where I'm going to introduce my other word, the writer then contrasts, which is another word for juxtaposer, contrasts this with not quit. Instantly. And then I'm going to put what the message is here using those words. So think about it. Fights. Okay, so you're going to be caught in a fight, but don't quit. Okay, so what are they trying to tell us? If there's a fight, don't quit. It's what is the message of this poem? Telling us that even though things are brutal, painful, and hard, as I've just said there, that actually you've got to keep going. Instantly telling us that it is important that we do not let ourselves be beaten when there are challenges. If you had time, what I would do next is I would then probably drop in another word, like even the word hit, and maybe analyse that. But that essentially is what you're trying to do there. P-E-A-R. This shows the reader, for my final R step, the reader, how they, and I could use the keywords from the question here, how they need to have strength and determination. And I'm going to add in challenging times and situations. How you phrase it is up to you, but essentially that final sentence is possibly the most important sentence because what it does is it shows that you have understood why John Greenleaf Whittier, in this instance, wrote this poem. That, therefore, is my PEAR paragraph written with you, and I've got just enough time left on this video to say what I would like you to do next as part of your revision. And that would be choose a method that you have highlighted and write about it using the same structure that I've put on the screen for you there. The thing I would like you to think about, probably focusing on if you're really stuck and don't know where to begin, is that line 2/3 of the way down that starts with success is failure turned inside out. Look at the idea of the clouds of doubt. So doubt is when you're not certain of yourself. Clouds, think about connotations, maybe dark, big, intimidating, maybe even suggesting scary, foreshadowing something, but look at how that is again contrasted or juxtaposed with the silver tint, and you've almost got that link with the idea of the expression people say about every cloud has a silver lining, meaning that every bad thing, there's always a positive thing that's going to be there with it. Either way, this is the end of this video of Unseen Poetry. I will upload more in the future. In the meantime, very good luck with whatever you are doing and whatever stage you are with your GCSEs, and keep working hard. Mr. Johnson, signing out. Bye bye.